With Vice President Lai Ching-te halfway through his trip, what can we expect in terms of a response from China?
Even though this is a routine visit, and even though the visit only includes, say, members of Congress and members of the business community and civil society, Beijing is still likely to demonstrate through military drills and other means of propaganda a very sharp cost imposition on Taiwan to try to demonstrate that trying to reach out incurs a heavy cost with China, and to try to show that Beijing is more serious about unification with the mainland than Taiwan supporters are about preventing a forceful unification. The way to do that, they think, is by conducting very aggressive military drills, air sorties, naval sorties, missile launches, and I expect to see a fair share of those in this month of August.
We've seen President Tsai Ing-wen meet with U.S. House speakers on both Taiwanese and U.S. soil. But this time, it's the vice president making the trip, and there's been no news of any high-profile meetings. Does that change the way China views these stopovers in the U.S.?
From Beijing's perspective, it's just a high-level visit without their sanction. Their mind seems to be made up. They're calling Vice President Lai a troublemaker. So their mind is made up about the DPP, and that's a very distressing signal, frankly, that Beijing doesn't have an open mind about the pragmatic leadership of a government, but rather predetermines, based on their own view of an individual, how that government will run.
Is there anything else that might amplify China's response to this trip?
If you look at the National Defense Authorization Act that has passed both the Senate and the House, you'll see a number of very pro-Taiwan recommendations and resolutions. Now, we'll see what passes at the end of this, but I think the congressional push for greater interoperability with Taiwan's forces, greater capacity building for those forces, including Taiwan's military forces and multilateral drills, I think all of those are signs that China is watching very closely and will want to preempt and react very harshly to. And I do expect there to be some members of Congress who, either in New York and or San Francisco, belatedly are seen as having met with Vice President Lai. So just because there's no Speaker of the House necessarily involved in this trip, I think the China intent here will be to saber rattle, to intimidate and demonstrate resolve.